According to the Congress of the United States, so far the Afghan war has cost 2.4 trillion.
Content over everything.
Trillion, which makes billion almost seem like pocket change. 2.4 trillion pounds that never has been spent to build a community. 2.4 trillion spent to destroy a community. Now this is nothing to do with America or its citizens. This is to do with who owns America. And it is the far right that own America. It is the far right that said, let's spend 2.4 trillion pounds off the taxpayer, the poor, of the middle class. Let's spend 2.4 trillion of their money murdering people in another country. Just the Afghan war. That doesn't include Iraq. That doesn't include their war in South America. This is what the rich do. They spend our money on murdering other poor people in other countries. Is that a democracy? What is a democracy? A democracy looks like us. It looks like our dreams. It looks like what we want. It looks like what we desire from our world. And most people you meet want to live in peace. Most people you meet want to live in a community that is growing stronger by the day and not being bombed by another country. That's what most communities want. Good education, clean water, no pollution. When your community looks like that, and other great factors like education and art and free health, and obviously other things, when it looks like that, then you live in a democracy. But if it looks like war, and your papers are spreading hate, and who is the people we should be hating today, and where the rich own your parliament, and where the rich own your education, like Oxbridge in the UK, and in America, Harvard, then you know you live in a dictatorship. A dictatorship paid for by the rich, over the poor. A democracy doesn't look like war. It doesn't look like hate and violence and no education and no health. What a democracy looks like is all of us growing stronger, not swearing at each other. Or hating each other, or being violent to each other. That's what democracy looks like. And I say to you, vote in that democracy. What do we do? Vote in that democracy. Don't vote in a dictatorship. That's insane. But stand up for what you believe in. I'm not saying don't vote or don't vote in a democracy. I'm saying don't vote in a dictatorship, because all that does is have the same people in power.
Is this a dictatorship? This country? Honest question.
Yes, I've been arguing that this right now is a dictatorship over a democracy. Over a democracy.
Yes.
So that means they will tell you who to vote for. If you want to vote Labour, vote Tony Blair. Tony Blair's safe. He's nice in Oxbridge. He'll commit only a few more wars than the Tories. In actual fact, a Labour Party shouldn't stand for Oxbridge, which is what New Labour does, and Tony Blair's wealth. A Labour government should stand for the very thing that it says in its title, which is Labour. The Labour of the people. The Labour of the masses. That's what the Labour Party stands for. But New Labour came in with their money from Rupert Murdoch, with their money from the oil companies, with their money from weapon companies. and they dictated what the Labour Party will be doing. And it said to people like Jeremy Corbyn, you are the nutters of this world. Why don't you fuck right off? That's what it said to those people. And they put their Oxbridge people into power throughout councils and as MPs throughout the country, wiping out and decimating the Labour Party in this land. That's what's happening in America. The American politicians are owned by wealth and what?
So two-party politics doesn't work.
Sorry?
Two-party politics doesn't work.
By very definition it doesn't work. But yes, two-party politics doesn't work because it's the way the rich has dictated your democracy will be. You got two parties to vote for. One right-wing party or another right-wing party. That's the democracy we offer, and there is no other democracy in this world apart from that what we will sell you. Jeremy Corbyn has come along and said, actually, I am left-wing in a left-wing party. And what has the press done? What has the press done in this country? They have destroyed him on the very principle of a left-wing politician owning a left-wing party, and put there by democracy, by the way, not by money owned by the rich, which is how Tony Blair got into power. That's how he got there, not by democracy, but in actual fact, his mates owning the newspapers and saying, look how lovely our new Labour is. In actual fact, he's just as right-wing as the right-wing party called the Tories. Same dreams, same aspirations, and same end product, which is when you're poor, you will be punished for being poor. If you want an education, then you have to pay for your education and face the threat of living a life in debt just so that you can become a better human being. You should not be punished for wanting to becoming a better human being. No, in actual fact, you should be rewarded for wanting to become a better human being. Paid to go to a best education. That's what democracy looks like. That is how a democracy functions. Everybody in society given the opportunity to become the best in their society. Do you think this world today is nice?
What, we're living in a democracy, right?
No. The question was, do you think the world today is a good place? Can you name 3 things which define this not being a good place, please, if you don't mind?
War.
I'm asking this gentleman here.
War.
I'm asking this gentleman here.
War, poverty.
War, poverty.
And general being lost.
Yes.
No direction.
And all those things. Were you ever asked to vote on war?
No.
No, you never asked to vote.
So
But the taxpayers' money.
Is that a democracy? Or are we living under a secret dictatorship?
Not secret, open dictatorship.
Right.
The only difference between understanding that we don't live in a democracy or a dictatorship is language. It's very clear when people say, oh, I'm not voting or interested in politics, because they're all the same. In actual fact, if that individual said, well, it's the rich who own our democracy, that definition changes the world. When you say, I'm not bothering anymore, that changes nothing. In actual fact, you're educated by the press and by politicians to want to give up, to want to live in despair, because that gives them the wealth. Because wealth isn't money. Wealth is political power and ownership of ideas, concepts, and people and property. That's what wealth is. That's what power is. And they will never let you have those. They'll never let you have a democracy. If you had a democracy, they'll take it away from you. If you actually was a real threat of you voting in someone that could actually represent the people of this world, they would take that democracy away from you.
No, but a true democracy would be people voting on certain laws themselves, but we don't. We vote a person to decide for us.
No, that's how fundamentally democracy works. Because most people are busy getting on with their own lives and not doing things. But most people should elect somebody amongst themselves. In the UK, we get Oxbridge, a bunch of rich kids, educated the Oxbridge way, to think the Oxbridge way, which, by the way, is genocide and horror and misery. That's what Oxbridge offers this world. How do we know this? Look at the Tory party. There the children of Oxbridge dwell, and their dwelling and their thoughts and their world is the world that we have today. Hatred, poverty. Hello there, how you doing? Good to see you again. And genocide. That's how Oxbridge got rich. That's where Oxbridge gets its wife? Haha. That's where it gets its wealth from. Don't believe me? Look at their statues, who they glorified. Don't believe me? Look at the portraits on their wall, who they glorify. It ain't fucking free thinkers. It ain't people saying a society should be owned by the people in that society. It is actual fact, society and wealth should be owned by the few, for the few, so we can have our internal dictatorship on not just a country, but the world, because Oxbridge is international, just like Harvard. All right, so just to change subjects, hopefully you'll just do a little, Leon, hope you'll do a little 5-minute section here on this one about Speaker's Corner. There is a Tommy Robinson group in Speaker's Corner. Steve and his friend, that fellow and some other colleagues over there. Actually, I'll do this once I've got all the names down, because it will make more sense. So I'll do this next time I'm here, actually, because I need the list of the names. I'm dyslexic, so I can't remember names. I remember you. How you doing? It's good to see you. Anything you're interested in talking about or curious about the world? I've been talking about austerity and how austerity is a tool for the rich to make sure inflicting massive political damage on the poor. Not only does it strip away wealth of a country, but it inflicts the most heinous damage politically on those people as well.
You talk a lot about democracy.
Pardon?
You talk a lot about democracy.
Democracy, yeah.
What do you think about Brexit?
You see, in a democracy, you need to have understanding what you're voting for. That's one rule. That's one rule in a democracy. And we have no idea what we're voting for in the Brexit deal, because it was never announced. If Brexit was truly a democracy, then the Brexit negotiations would have happened first. The Tory party would have laid down their requirements first, because that is the very fundamental of respecting not only democracy, but the people you're talking to, which is why you had so many lies from the far right and the Tory party, which are the far right. You lay down first what you are going to Europe first. You don't do it afterward in secret. That's not democracy. That is taking the piss. That is abusing the people of the UK. You lay down first your manifesto, and then people vote on your manifesto, which you are obliged to stand by. Unless a massive political event happens, of course. But if you just throw shit out ab whim, then you never stood for that manifesto. What should have happened if Brexit was genuine at any single level, like the people's vote? That is equally such a joke as well. Because we've got to know what we're voting for, or not voting for, or what we're voting against.
We do. Theresa May has a deal.
What, go on then, lay to me the deal.
I don't know the deal in and out.
Yeah, you know why you don't know it? Because nobody knows it, apart from the Oxbridge kids
I agree, yeah.
in Parliament. And yet no one's saying, hang on, we need to stop all of this until, firstly, the Tory party and the Oxbridge children say, actually, we're going to stand up for democracy, the very thing we say we're giving to this country with the Brexit ideal, which is sovereignty to a country. In actual fact, they're taking it this way. Yo!
How are you?
Very good to see you. I'm doing fist bumps now. That's my new thing. Bit of a hygiene thing.
Very good. Well done.
So, yeah, how you doing?
All right, very good.
We're talking about, I'm talking about Brexit's not a
What
democracy.
do you think on Brexit?
Well, I'm saying,
I don't think will happen.
well, I'm saying, if Brexit was ever respecting the people's view, then they would have put first what the deal would have been taken to Europe. They never did that. That's because they hate the people of the UK. They hate democracy. They hate the people's vote, the Tory party, and the rich that triggered all this to begin with. The UKIP party, which is Tommy Robertson's playground, by the way, a far-right lunatic. That's what a democracy will list. All of us see it first. Did you? Has anybody seen it? No, because they hate you, and they hate your view, and they hate what you've got to say. That's why they won't let you live in a democracy or have a real vote on a Brexit. The Brexit thing's been a joke. It's no good if you don't tell people what's going on. A democracy, you need to tell people what's going on. Otherwise, again, I referred back to my original statement. We live in a dictatorship over a democracy. Would you have liked to seen the deal which the Tory party was going to take to Europe before you voted for Brexit?
Yeah, that makes no sense.
No, yes, sorry. Yes, it definitely not. Not only does it make more sense, it would mean that you're honouring, the Tory party have honoured democracy and what they truly mean. Because the Tories said, oh, this is going to bring freedom back. Is it? Is it going to bring freedom back? Then, if that's true, then why are you not telling us anything? Why have you gone to Europe not telling us anything? Why have you never, ever brought to the people before the vote on Brexit? Why did you do that? Why? Because they have no intent of bringing freedom to this country. No intent of bringing power to Parliament. No dreams of that. They want to take powers away from Parliament. That's what the Tory party have been doing since they've got into politics. They, the Tory party, are the first party in history to be in contempt of Parliament. First time ever to be in contempt of Parliament, which is proof they have no intentions of ever, with Brexit, making Parliament stronger. Sorry, you had a question. I support anyone who puts their intentions first. Then you can't support a group of people you don't know what they're going to do. You can't support a group of people and not legally obliged to their statements. You have to be legally obliged. You can't say one thing today and another thing tomorrow as an elected politician. You should be fired for doing that unless there's real political reason for that. But a whim is not a real political question. Yes, question. No, good to see you, my friend.
The answer's no question.
So no, Brexit is not a question we should ever be engaging in. We should have said en masse, no, we ain't going to vote on that until you lay down what deal you're taking to Europe.
How can you do that? If you don't know the terms.
What do you think the Tory party have done since Brexit? They've gone with their secret little deal to Europe. And what have Europe done is laugh at the Tory party every single stage of it. No, you don't vote ever unless you know the terms of the deal. Brexit, You knew nothing about it. You just had Boris Johnson saying any mumbling Oxbridge eating shit that pops out of his head. That's what democracy means to Oxbridge. Any shit that falls out of his head. What a democracy looks like is that you honour the people in your country. And you honour the people in your country by describing what you do before your actions. Brexit is a good idea if you want to vote for it, but they never told you the rules that they were going to send to Europe. They said that people don't need to know. They don't need to know. Parliament doesn't need to know. They don't need to vote on it. That's what they said.
He wants to ask a question.
Yeah.
Oh, the Daily Mail. He's a regular here.
I've never worked for
the Daily Mail.
I was the fucking
Who
Guardian.
works here regularly. I mean, works at the Daily Mail and comes here regularly. It's just quite abusive. And he comes here, has always been abusive. So I don't take questions from that gentleman anymore because he cannot handle himself in a fashion which respects any human being. Until he does, then I can start answering his questions. Any questions from anyone so far? Anything else from... Has anything I said seemed ridiculous? So why do we live in a world where we are not allowed to know the agreement of Brexit before even voting in whether we should be in or out of Brexit? We live in that world because you don't live in a democracy. You live in a world run and owned by Oxbridge who despise democracy, despise the people's vote. By the way, Oxbridge is now trying to say, oh, let's have a people's vote. They don't give a shit about the people.
I said that.
Oxbridge despises the people of this UK, despises the people of this world, and most of all, despises the democracy.
It's not just Oxbridge that are arguing.
Yes, it is just Oxbridge, but it's what you can say.
It's not just Oxbridge that are arguing for people's vote.
The thing is, democracy own our media. I mean, sorry, Oxbridge owns our media. They own our law, they own our parliament, they own our police, they own our armies. Just look at the Sutton report on who owns this country. Sutton report, unbelievably, written by Oxbridge. Oxbridge had a moment of realisation. And it's all written there. And they've sat down and actually done the work, interviewed people, asked people. And their conclusion is, Oxbridge own the lot. And do you know what Oxbridge wants in this world? They want war, genocide and poverty. That's where it's got its wealth from. 600 years that institution's been in power. Do you know how? Because it's murdered half the bloody world.
You are mentally ill.
That's what it's done. Look at the history of Oxbridge. It's armies, it's poverty. Look, who owns the British Army?
You ought to be in a mental hospital.
Pardon? And who's the Queen? Who is the Queen? What does she represent?
More people than you do.
Establishment isn't a description. It's just a
Who
genetic
do you
term.
represent?
So,
Who do you
what
represent?
does establishment actually mean?
It means somebody you don't like.
What is it? What's the actual meaning of the word establishment? Huh? It means coming from a certain place. It means coming from you've been accepted to have the right thought process. And you've been accepted, and because you passed those two tests, you're allowed to go into power. That's how our country's been built. It's always been that way. The establishment is Oxbridge. The Queen is the owner of the church. The church owns Oxbridge. Have you ever been to Oxbridge? I recommend doing some research, please.
When did you
Look
go?
at their buildings. Look who owns them. Look who's always owned them. Look who pays for their departments. Who are the statues they glorified? Cecil Rhodes. Have you ever heard of him?
Yes.
De Beers. Have you ever heard of De Beers?
Who runs
De Beers is a diamond company, mate.
Yes, I know that.
And De Beers committed mass genocide across this world.
Where?
The owner was Cecil Rhodes. Committed mass genocide.
Did he? Where?
The empire's never ended.
Where did he do? Where did he do his?
And that man is glorified by Oxbridge.
Where?
Do you know why? Unbelievably,
Where?
even though that cunt's been dead for God knows how many years, his wealth is still supporting Oxbridge.
Where?
Unbelievably.
Where? Where's he doing it?
That's
Where is he doing it?
That's Oxbridge. And there's
Where
real
is he
people
doing it?
today who are alive today
Where
who
is he
commit
doing it?
just as much
Which point
horrific
is backed
things
by Rhodes?
and pay for the way Oxbridge
Where?
is today.
Where is
Look
Rhodes? You see
go
what I
to the
mean?
Sutton Trust.
He knows fuck all about.
Go to the Sutton
Where?
Trust, which is owned by Oxbridge.
Where?
Read their reports.
Where
Look
is he
who the
doing it?
people
You
are,
can't
who
answer.
pays for people.
no,
Nothing is from a magic money tree. Somebody somewhere's paid for it, and they expect their money to have
You see what I mean?
influence.
Mental illness.
That's what money is. It has influence. That's why nobody's allowed to have money unless you've passed the first test. Did you go to Oxbridge? Do you think
such a
exactly
cunt.
like us? If
You
so,
are mentally ill.
you're on board, mate.
You're mentally
Fine
ill.
by you.
You are mentally ill.
Anything you'd like to add to that?
Well, people who go to Oxbridge don't always agree. I mean, you've had leaders of Oxbridge led the Labour Party and the Conservative Party.
No, yes, we had Oxbridge leading New Labour, actually. New Labour introduced money as the idea of democratic rights within the Labour Party, not democracy within the Labour Party. That was taken away by New Labour and Oxbridge. So they are conforming to what I'm saying, which is wealth. If you have the right wealth and the right idea, then you're allowed in our club. Jeremy Corbyn was never allowed in New Labour. He was never allowed to have a view in that. Do you know how he became leader of the Labour Party? Not because Oxbridge decided, oh, let's have democracy reign in our party. They said, we've got to still look like we represent the people of this country. So what we'll do, just as a whim, as a bit of a joke, we'll let Jeremy Corbyn have a go. Most people that vote for Jeremy Corbyn, MPs, don't like him. They did it because they were told to put him there. Do read it's all online. Read it. It's all online by people who are qualified, who are from Guardian and papers like that. So it's all out there, not conspiracies really. Go into the Labour Party, ask the Labour Party. Jeremy Corbyn's there as a joke, and as soon as they thought the Labour Party was dead. That's another interesting thing. New Labour thought they successfully destroyed forever the Labour Party. What didn't they realise was suddenly, actually, in this country, there are people still who believe in the Labour Party. And those people came in their thousands, millions, and they all said, whoa, there's Jeremy Corbyn. He actually believes in a democracy. He actually believes in something which is in Oxbridge and glorifying the rich. He believes in representing the people. Do you know who the MPs in this country swear an oath to? Yes. How is that a democracy? Who should an MP swear an oath to?
God. God.
Who should? The people. And do you know why it isn't? Why is it not the people who the MPs you've elected for are sworn oath to? Do you know why? Because they fear and hate the people. They fear and hate democracy. Because that means your vision, our vision of the world would then shine, not their vision. What's your vision of the world? Did you vote for war? Did you go, I want more war? I want more hate in my newspapers?
No. Who does?
Exactly. Therefore, that who suddenly becomes us. and that us suddenly comes, well, we would have a real vision of this world. Us, all of us, the majority, sorry, have that political power. That is real democracy. That is political power. And that's why you never allowed it.
So you support Corbyn?
No, I support anyone that stands for a real democracy. That's who I support.
What do you mean by democracy?
A democracy where not the rich, have power over own parliament. In actual fact, the statues of parliament shouldn't be dedicated to people of genocide and empire. It should be dedicated to the people of the country that have stood up for the voices of this country. That's what I believe. That's what a democracy looks like. That's what we should stand for. And when you vote in a world that represents you, you'll end up living a world that represents you. No war, no pollution, education for all, the best, owned by all, health for all, owned by all. And that world, people don't live in fear. And if you've ever lived in fear, or if you're in fear of your child not getting the best education, or if you're in fear of not being able to afford your health bill, or if you're in fear of that your voice will never be heard, then you and everybody around you are slaves. This is the definition of slavery. And that is the history of our world. It's the history of the majority as slaves, living in fear.
Stop getting the crowd excited. You have
Democracy holds the human being up as something to be proud of. And education makes us proud, makes us enlightened. And hatred is left to the gutter of history. That's what happens in democracy. There are always going to be violent people. That's why we have prisons. Nice one. Thank you for your questions.
You said it was a wrap. Is that a wrap?
It's a wrap for the moment. Thank you very much. Content over everything. As always, you've been absolutely the best society can give a voice to people. You're the best of that. And long may you reign. Thank you.
Peace. Yeah. You got dust. Content over everything. From your melody.
Come, man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV.
They're not even wearing the burqa, they're wearing that whole fucking...
Different cultures produce different people.
And you see Afghanistan
in my opinion, the only time multiculturalism has failed is due to savage tribalism.
Multiculturalism has fucked Britain. Hamza, multiculturalism has totally destroyed
Britain.
How? How?
No, it is not. It's built on the back.
Do you know if the immigrants stop working for one day, this country will stop working?
No, it is not. That is a myth. That is it. It is built by the English